Hello, Aries. If you're hearing these words right now, it's not a coincidence. Something is shifting powerfully in your energy field. And what's coming next is no small thing. Someone you once knew is reaching the very edge of silence. Feelings they've buried for far too long are rising to the surface. And you, Aries, you're about to find yourself standing at a crossroads of fate. This isn't just a story about emotions. This is a tremor, a warning, a message from the universe, a moment that could change the direction of your life. From this point forward, and it begins right now. Sit down and be still as if you're in a warm, quiet room, soft amber light glowing, and the wind outside the window, whispering secrets that were never spoken. This is a moment for your heart to be heard, not by anyone else, but by you. The life of an Aries has never been a smooth road. You live deeply. You love fiercely. You fight honestly, and yes, you hurt just as deeply. But sometimes the things we least expect are the ones that come closest. There is a tremor approaching. No knock, no warning. Like a gust of winter wind rushing through what felt like a quiet season, it shakes your senses, pulls at memories, relationships, and all the unfinished truths you thought were buried. That person is not a stranger. They once walked beside you with eyes that held depths, with words that ran like undercurrents, and with silences you thought you'd forgotten, but their heart has never been quiet. And you've never truly let go. All this time they've been battling a storm inside, torn between holding on to their pride or letting their heart speak, between hiding what they feel or admitting they never stop thinking of you. This isn't some romantic cliché. This is a collision of souls. Old souls once connected beyond logic. One afraid to lose. The other two used to standing alone in silence. But fate does not stay silent. It calls you. Through this event, through this intensity, you can no longer ignore. And isn't it strange that the one who once made you cry is now the one making your heart race again? The one you thought you let go is the very spark behind this emotional storm. They can't hold it in anymore. They can't pretend you don't exist. They're standing at the edge of eruption. Not out of hate, but because love has become too painful to suppress. You'll feel it not in words, but in their eyes, in every strange coincidence. In those moments, the universe designs so perfectly that you have to stop and ask yourself, is this real? And slowly you'll begin to see. This tremor didn't arrive by chance. It comes just as you're standing between two worlds. The old one where you gave and hurt and carried too much. And the new one where light begins to break through. Where you're learning to walk softer, live lighter, breathe freer. But before you enter that new chapter, fate wants you to face what's still unresolved. You can't carry old emotional baggage into the arms of peace. So this tremor isn't here to destroy. It's here to end. Truly end. Not with anger, but with awakening. And now you begin to ask yourself, how will I respond? Will I run or stay and face it? Will I hide in the shell I built? Or finally let my heart say what's never been said? All of it is waiting for your answer. And when the winds begin to shift, a new light starts seeping in through the quiet cracks of your soul. It doesn't blind you. It doesn't demand. It simply reminds you it's time to step out of the dark. That light, when it touches the places in your heart you thought had fallen asleep, it quietly awakens something. A memory, a look, a connection that was never truly gone. Someone is coming back. Not with sweet promises or polished words, but with an urgency they can no longer ignore. A soul that once walked through your life, leaving only silence behind, is now being pulled back as if by the gravity of a great planet. And that pull is you, Aries. You don't need to do anything to be noticed. Your energy right now is like a blue flame, not burning wildly, but steady, deep, intense enough to melt the space between you and those who once let go. There's something in your eyes, in the way you move, in the way you say nothing that won't leave their mind. They try to act normal. They try to keep living their life without you, but their heart refuses to follow the script. Longing is a strange thing. It leaks through the smallest cracks, averted eyes, unfinished sentences, silences that hang heavy like a song missing its final note. They are not coming back of sadness. They're returning because their heart never truly left. And this time they bring a different energy. It's stronger, more honest. No longer dangling between fear and hope like before. But what about you? You're standing in between two forces now. One, a quiet ember still glowing in your chest. The other, the lessons you had to learn after everything once broke you. You are strong now, but you have also been soft. And your heart, no matter how brave, is still the heart of someone who once loved deeply. The real question isn't whether they have the courage to return. The real question is, do you still want to open that door? Do you still believe that after all the times you were forgotten, this time might be different? Or have you grown used to the light of your own company, to the kind of peace that no one else can disturb? No one can answer that for you. But remember this, not everyone gets a second chance with someone like you. Not everyone is allowed to return to an Aries who has come to know their worth. The past might knock again, but you get to choose whether it stays in the hallway or becomes part of your story. And sometimes when the past meets the present, it's not to pull you backward, but to ask one quiet question. Have you truly moved on? Life doesn't always give you a heads up before it hands you a gift. Sometimes the most meaningful things arrive in silence, like a single flower rising from a field of ashes. And often right when you've stopped expecting anything at all, that's when the miracle shows up. Aries, you've walked a long road. Some parts were hard like stone. Some were cold like morning frost. Some were covered in fog with no sign of where it all might lead. But you kept going. You didn't ask, "When will I get there?" You simply knew. Every step forward was your declaration to the universe. I am worthy. And now, as your expectations have quieted, doors you thought were closed begin to unlock. Wealth, work, unseen forces. They're rearranging your path. Not loudly, not in a grand spectacle, but clearly something is shifting. You might receive an invitation out of nowhere. A new collaboration, a surprise call, an opportunity you thought had passed. Strangely enough, you won't have to chase it. It finds you as if the light you now carry in your heart has called all lost chances home again. The area of money, once a source of worry, is beginning to move. Not from luck, but from the seeds you planted when no one was watching. Those late nights, those efforts no one thanked you for. They're finally paying off, not in applause, but in real tangible value, and the most powerful rewards aren't always measured in your bank account. They're in the feeling of being seen, being trusted, being handed the kind of responsibility that matches who you've become. Maybe it's a new role, a chance to lead, or a quiet confirmation that others now recognize the light in you. This isn't just about money flowing. It's energy shifting. A higher current rising to meet you. One where everything you touch starts to come alive again. And soon you'll realize the greatest gift is not wealth, but freedom. Freedom to choose. Freedom to live on your terms. Freedom from the people, places, or patterns that once made you feel small. You're no longer asking to be seen. You are now someone others come looking for. Aries, if you're hearing this late at night and the path still feels unclear, trust this. Beneath the surface, the wheels are already turning. Opportunity doesn't need you to shout for it. It only needs you to be ready when it arrives because you're not who you were yesterday. You've walked through darkness. You chose to rise when everything tried to pull you down. And now the universe is preparing its way of saying thank you. Not with roses, but with real change. With solid movement, with moments that will make you whisper, "Finally, it's my turn." And sometimes, when your hands have just let go of the old, the new quietly arrives and places a beginning right into your palms. Not everyone who looks at you with desire truly loves you in the right way. Aries, there's a pair of eyes watching you every day from just far enough to stay hidden, but close enough to feel every little shift in you. A gaze filled with urgency, with longing, with the aching wish to step into the world you've been protecting. They love you, or at least they believe they do, with a force even they don't fully understand. But love, when it lacks boundaries, can quickly become something else, something heavy, a shadowy space where affection and control blur together. You've felt it, haven't you? Strange sense like someone is right beside you, even when you're alone. Those chance encounters that happen far too often to be chance. The messages one after another before you've even replied. The attention that goes beyond kindness, beyond sensitivity, sometimes beyond what feels safe. The truth is they're not a bad person. They're a soul-craving connection. But the way they approach you is starting to feel like a cage, not a shelter. You're losing your breath. And worse, you're losing your inner freedom. You once thought love was meant to feel safe, nourishing, a place where you could simply be yourself. But sometimes under the mask of love, a different kind of attachment grows. One that's born from fear of losing, not from trust and not from a willing heart. And then comes the question that unsettles even the strongest of hearts. How do you tell the difference between a deep love and an obsession dressed up as love? How do you know if they truly want you to be happy or if they're just trying to fill the emptiness with your presence? The answer, Aries, is not in their words. It's in how you feel when you're around them. True love brings peace. It opens you. It sets you free. Obsession tightens. It watches too closely. It makes you shrink until you no longer recognize yourself. So trust your body. Trust your breath. Trust the quiet voice inside you that always knows. You don't owe anyone your yes. If your heart isn't ready, you have every right to choose someone who loves you the way you deserve without pressure, without fear, without having to trade pieces of yourself just to keep them. Real love never makes you feel alone when you're standing side by side. It never forces you to lose yourself just to hold someone close. And it never asks you to choose between being loved and being able to breathe. Aries, you've learned enough by now to know not everyone deserves to walk beside you to the end. Some souls come only to teach you one thing about boundaries, about trust, and about the sacred value of freedom in love. And when your heart becomes quiet enough to see what's real, that's when you begin to hear the deeper calling of your own awakening. Awakening is never loud. It doesn't arrive with bright lights or ringing bells. It shows up in the quietest of moments when you're sitting alone, hand over your chest, feeling something subtle but very real begin to stir from within. Aries, you're moving through one of the most sacred phases of your life. A chapter not everyone gets to walk through. It's not a moment of glory, not a grand victory like the ones you've conquered before. No, this one is deeper, quieter, more powerful than words can explain. It begins when you start to notice the things you've been holding on to for far too long. The fears, the unspoken weight, the memories you thought were buried, and they rise up and not to hurt you again, but to be released. An old layer of energy is peeling away from you like dried leaves surrendering to the wind. And this time, you're not resisting. You're learning to let go. Not because you lost, but because you now understand that true freedom doesn't come from winning over something. It comes from no longer needing to fight it. The image of the magician, the creator, has not appeared in your field by accident. It's a sign you're beginning to see your own power through a completely different lens. Not the kind of power used to conquer others, but the kind that transforms you from the inside out. You've worked so hard for so long to be seen, to be enough, to be accepted. But now, a deeper part of you knows just being here, fully present, quiet, and whole is already enough to move the universe. As your energy awakens, you'll notice little miracles happening like second nature. Random meetings carry messages. Your dreams become clearer. Your intuition sharpens. And the things that once confused you start to reveal their purpose. One layer at a time. There's no room left for smallness. No more space for the voices that told you you weren't enough. This phase asks you to face yourself like looking into a sacred mirror. No filters, no masks, just you. Raw, real, and radiant in a way no one else ever defined. This liberation is not just emotional. It's physical. It's mental. It touches your relationships, your habits, your body, your breath. What no longer fits starts to fall away. The people who no longer resonate go quiet. And yes, it may feel bittersweet, but deep down you know it's necessary. Aries, you're learning to meet the fullness of yourself. Not to be perfect by anyone's standards, but to be completely unapologetically free. A quiet kind of freedom, but one that reaches deep. And from that place, love begins to arrive. Not from someone else, but from the light you've been quietly lighting within yourself this entire time. And once that light begins to spread, you'll feel it. A shift not only inside you, but in the world quietly turning around you. Sometimes loneliness doesn't come from the absence of people. It comes from the aching sense that no one truly understands the depth you're carrying inside. Aries, after everything you've walked through, maybe you've started to learn silence. Not because you have nothing left to say, but because your heart no longer believes anyone is really listening. People see your strength. That's obvious. But what they don't see is that this strength was built from wounds that healed or at least pretended to. There are old aches you no longer name, but they're still there like a fine layer of dust on your heart. Like dreams you quietly let go of because you thought you were too late or simply too tired. You've gotten used to hiding. You smile at the right moments. You look okay to the world. You help others. You listen. But behind those ordinary days, there are silent nights where it's just you and the questions no one else can answer. And maybe at some point you began to believe you were meant to walk this road alone. Maybe no one is patient enough to stay. When you're not cheerful, not perfect, not easy to love like the mask you wear. But here's the truth. You're not broken. You just need the right person. Someone who can sit beside you without asking you to explain. Someone who touches the softest parts of you without making them shrink back. Someone who sees the storm in your eyes and chooses not to run. But before anyone can come in, you must step out. Step out of the shell you built to keep others from seeing your softness. Step out of the false beliefs that you are too much, too little, or never enough. Step out of the fear that if you love too deeply, you'll lose everything again. Healing doesn't happen in a day. It happens in moments. When you let yourself open again, when you dare to send that first message, when you say yes to an invitation, when you sit across from someone and share just a small piece of your story without defense, life hasn't turned its back on you, Aries. It's simply been waiting for you to open the door. And the miracle is when you begin to share your light, even just a little, the world answers back with even more light. A thankful glance, a genuine smile, a hand reaching out at just the right moment without needing to be asked. Aries, you've spent so much time healing on your own. But now, let human kindness, let friendship, let love be part of that journey too. Because sometimes the most healing thing isn't wisdom. It's a hug, a presence, and a quiet voice that says, you don't have to do this alone anymore. There are roads in life that don't need to be marked on any map because they are etched into us. Through silence, through tears, through the long nights no one ever saw. Aries, you've just walked one of those roads. No grand arrival, no applause, just you and your heart, crossing the barren lands of emotion on your own. It was a season where you had to grow up inside your loneliness, where you had to accept what couldn't be changed and let go of those who once meant the world to you. You hoped. You waited. You whispered to yourself. Just a little longer and you kept going quietly. No one saw all that you sacrificed, but the universe did. And that's why this chapter is coming to a close softly, naturally, like winter breathing its last cold sigh before spring brings the warmth. You don't have to push anymore. What needs to end will quietly fade away. Those who no longer align with your path will gently exit. And you will no longer blame, no longer hold on. An old loop is unraveling. Not because others have changed, but because you have. You're no longer the one waiting by the old window with a silent heart, hoping to be loved, right? You are the one now who walks out of that room with clear eyes, a grateful heart, and a brand new step. And then something sacred happens just as it always does at the end of a real ending. Someone is approaching. Not someone who makes you question your worth or sacrifice yourself to keep them near, but a soul steady, mature, peaceful, who knows exactly what they want. And they see you. They see your scars and the light you carry. This isn't the stormy kind of love. And it's not the fantasy chase. It's the kind of love that knows how to stand firm, how to listen, how to build something steady, not perfect but true. And best of all, you don't have to lose yourself to keep it. Aries, after everything, the universe has always had your back, just not in ways you expected. When you thought you were being abandoned, you were actually being protected from something not meant for you. When you felt delayed, you were actually being redirected, prepared for something far better that was already on its way. No one heard the silent prayers you whispered in the dark. But now, each one is being answered, not with loud miracles, but with real change. A new opportunity, a new person, a new perspective, a new chapter written not in fantasy, but in your own hardened wisdom. The old door is closing softly like breath. And ahead of you, there is a light you've never known before. Not because it's so bright, but because this time you are strong enough to receive it without fear. Because when you leave a cycle behind with peace in your soul, that's when new beginnings arrive. Quietly, but deep enough to change your whole